So you talked about empathy, and Dr. Lewis, you grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and people told you you would amount to nothing. Give the audience a little about how you acquired empathy, having been there, and now you're here to serve the people who are just like you were.
Mm-hmm. Well, great question. I mean, my path to where I am now is not the silver spoon path by no means. In growing up in Baton Rouge, I went to the school. You know how you go to some schools and you say the name of the school and people say, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm sorry about that. And that was my reality. I was like, well, why are you apologizing? I mean, that's my school. But in that, when you look at externally, when you had the number of people who told the students at that school what they couldn't do, and you had a few people on the inside who said, no matter what is said on the outside, you will be great, because we've had interaction. So if I fast forward that experience to the place where I am now, in a university which has similar characteristics to the University of Maryland, where now I'm in a position as a distinguished professor, it goes against everything that was cast upon me as far as what I can do, and the similar roadblocks that many have had. But one thing I understood that still drives me to today, which is a point that I'm gonna make about sustaining, is that one, I had to move past the prove them wrong kind of mindset until to a point of this is who I'm supposed to be mindset. So, and what I mean by that, and how I function in the workspace, dealing with my faculty colleagues who may not look like me or not used to seeing somebody who goes against everything that they know about at the highest rank of professorship, one that's younger than probably all of them, don't look like them, but then have outproduced them, which is a totally different mindset. But I think the thing in who I'm supposed to be now, the mindset, and for the students that are here, you have to think about positioning your place. So my mind doesn't go on, do I need to compete with my faculty colleague? Because they're not even in the league anymore, right? I'm talking about my legacy on the work that I'm trying to do and make the world a better place, because through my upbringing experience of being told what you couldn't do, I knew I had all of the ingredients of making it to be a success, because if I can overcome that from the standpoint, well, you're not supposed to come to this school because you can't write well enough, right? To now, 18 books later, you're like, is that enough? But I think if we look at the sustaining standpoint of diversity, I think the number one thing that I think we need to do is understand that people perform best not because of money. People perform best when they feel that they're not labeled as an other. They perform best when they come in the workplace and they truly feel the value. Because to make diversity 2.0 work, you don't even have to say it's diversity 2.0.
That's right.
Because people can feel it, and they can feel when they are valued, okay? And because when they look at that, because in this day and age that we live with, they're gonna do a couple of things. One, they're gonna Google your company first. Okay, we know this, right? Then they're gonna scan to see who are the people in significant positions. And does anyone look like me? Yes, no. These are yes, no questions. Then if they are in there, do I have access to them? Yes, no. Okay. But then the fourth part about that is, then do I see a path for my success within that particular business? Okay. And if that answer is no, they will go somewhere else, because it goes past the head count. Okay. Because you can have a good head count this year, but next year they can all roll out. Absolutely. Because they're going to go to the place where they feel valued. So no matter what the culture is and how they look, taking a lesson from my upbringing, okay, there will be people in your organization that tell them what they cannot do. And if you know that is going on and you don't address it, that has already sent the message, okay? But then the other point from that, if you don't place people in significant positions, it also sends another message, okay? But the true test is that when people come in your company, can they perform at optimal levels to reach and maintain the legacy that they want to do? So for Alicia to do what she did and all these other great people on this particular panel, there's something bigger than just the organization, but the organization has to foster an environment that allows them to grow, okay? Even if they outgrow the company, you've still done your part. Thank you.
Great, excellent, excellent. So I want to go to the audience, but first I want to ask, if I could, Rita, if you could talk about empathy. You had to have a high level of empathy to turn around your station, to create the workplace that you created. You talked about that when you said you wanted your workplace to reflect the community. How did empathy play a role in this?
Well, first of all, you have to love, as my father said, love your community. Put everything you have into that. You will be so surprised how magic happens. So when you know that you care, they know we care. When you get up in the morning and you see our faces, and they see faces of every walk of life, and they know that we care about getting their families ready to go off. They know that we want to make sure they understand how to dress the children. They know we're going to be there all day waiting to make sure they understand anything that's going on that they need to know. We're going to do everything in our powers to get that information out there to them in any way possible. And we have the tools in order to do that. So you have to know that you do everything possible for what you feel is right, not only for the company, for your employees, and for your community, and for you and your family. But you also have to have fun, and you have to have laughter, and you have to have a sense of, this should be a place that this is my family. Everybody here is my family. So I want to enjoy my family the best I can. So that empathy goes across the board, being very proud of who you are, and that then gives you the chance to make everybody else proud, and be proud that they're part of you and everything that is there for them, because you're doing it for them. The service is for them.
And Louis?
I want to say something to this audience. It's extremely important that this dialogue happen at this level, at the university level, at the business school level. I taught diversity in a University of Tel Aviv Jaffa, and their diversity issues take a different form, but it's a microcosm of the world's diversity issues. When you look at Israel and you look at 80 nations being integrated, and it's no different. The principles are the same, right? The discipline of diversity as knowledge needs to be evolved. It needs to go beyond that 1.0 dialogue into the academia and the business world, and we don't see enough of that. So one of the recommendations that came out of that trip was the creation of a global diversity and inclusion leadership institute at University of Jaffa to prepare leaders like the students in this room to be able to manage global workforces for competitive advantage that tie directly to the bottom line. And we're not just talking about cultural competence, we're talking about exploiting marketing, objectives, which companies talk about. But every colleague up here has kind of said, it has to connect, right? It's all got to make sense. That needs to be studied, that needs to be evolved, that needs to be taught. And my personal belief is until that happens, we will continue to have issues. I no longer look to change heart. I'll be very candid with you. It's not my job. My job is to impact behavior, and as a chief diversity officer. And I think the management of diversity is about creating incentives and disincentives, processes and disciplines to incentivize, as my colleague at the end suggested, right, the right behaviors. And that takes empathy, but it also takes changes. Does that make sense? So I encourage this university, this is the right place to do it, to take on that challenge of the research side. Because you are an institution of higher learning, you could do this. I would hope it'd be Rutgers, my alma mater, but Maryland is a great state. That's all I have to say on that.
Great stuff. And Alicia, maybe if you want to chime in about
Yeah, I just want to just touch on one thing. Diaz said something very important here. You are all leaders. You are all leaders. And as leaders, when you get to that position of being able to make a diverse workforce, you have to make that diverse workforce comfortable for those people who are in there. So you can never, ever turn a blind eye to intolerance. Don't ever turn a blind eye to intolerance.